That's kind of what took me so long.
Good morning, everybody. I am Debbie from Madam Stitch, and this is my cohort in crime.
Biz from Busy Crochet. Hi, everyone.
And we are the co-designers of the Memories Blanket for this fabulous crochet along. And we are popping in today because we want to give you the 411 on the Cordelia Square that
Mhm.
debuted this morning. So this is that gorgeous. This is not very pretty color, but you can see it. That's what released this morning. So we want to give you all the information about it and
Mhm.
all the tips and tricks and get you started off on the right foot with this particular square.
For sure. So Debbie, I'm gonna first start out with I want to know what made you choose this particular design because I love how you incorporated both the granny stitch and something else to add a little bit of texture.
You know, this year has just been the year of the Cordelia stitch pattern. I just came up with that name. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's a stitch pattern that combines the granny stitch and what we commonly refer to as the camel stitch, which is working in the third loop. So you can work any stitch height in the third loop. It's just the location that's different. Um, Granny stitch is my jam.
Mhm.
Everywhere I work, I try to incorporate the granny stitch. So this one starts with 2 rounds of a traditional granny stitch, and then you'll notice the
Mhm.
ridges around the edge.
Mhm.
Um, you start with a round of the third round is actually just straight up half double crochet because you have to have a foundation stitch to work into.
Mhm.
And then the next round is half double crochet in the third loop because I wanted a little bit of height. And then the last round is single crochet worked into that third loop just
Mhm.
because I was getting really close to my 5 inches and wanted to make sure that I didn't overstep my bounds there.
Oh, I
But
completely
that
understand that.
these are 2 stitches that are really close to my heart this year. As I've said to you before, I'm not much of one for surface stitching. So we did surface
Mhm.
stitching in the section 1, which you made it
Mhm.
super duper easy. Um, but I
Mhm.
don't generally do surface crochet in my
Mhm.
designs. So this was a great alternative. It just flips that top loop forward, so it looks like you did a
Mhm.
great little surface
Yeah.
crochet around the edge. So that's how I came
Yeah.
up with it.
Well, that's awesome. Can I just be honest and say that I didn't know that that was called the camel stitch. I just always called it the third loop. Like I
Right.
had no idea it had a name.
It does. Nobody ever uses it, and I'm not even sure. I don't usually use it to refer to the stitch in my patterns, but it is. I don't
Mhm.
really even know why it's called the camel stitch. So research for everybody. This
Mhm.
is, something you need to go look
Probably
up.
because you're working into a hump. Like if you think about it,
Ah,
it's into the hump.
right? All right, now I want to show. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you're working from the front side of the stitch. So see how all of the
Mhm.
top loops slant toward you.
Yep, they
If
all
you
point up.
look behind that, just underneath that, there's a loop that sits right underneath that
Yeah.
top loop behind. That's the one you're working into,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yes.
um, most of the time we're working from behind. So you would be looking at the piece this way, and it would
Mhm.
be almost that top loop, but we're
Mhm.
working from the front side. And so we have to pull it down just a little bit to
Mhm.
see that loop, and then once you get it started across the side, it's easy to work.
And it's a little bit easier to find that loop in a double crochet than it is in a single crochet. Oh, I should say
Mhm.
it's easier to work it into a double. The single crochet is a little bit of a tighter stitch, so
Right.
just it once when you're doing those single crochets or when you're going to be working into single crochets, just kind of keep them a little bit looser if you know you're going to be working into a third loop.
Right, and
Fern says
actually those
hello.
Hi, Fern. The single crochet worked at the end is just worked into the third loop, so you're still working
Right.
into a half double crochet, which gives you a little bit more room, which is good.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to say too is to point out that there's a difference because we are using that kind of pushed forward ridging throughout the entire blanket, but
Mhm.
not to have people confuse it with a back post single crochet as
Right.
opposed to working into the third loop. Be very, conscious that you're working on the back side of your stitch, but from the front side. You're not
Right.
working a back post or a front post.
Yeah, that's a good point because both of those techniques kind of give you the same look,
Mhm,
but you chose to do a front post,
mhm,
right? To a front
mhm,
post single crochet to get that loop to fold over, and I used a
mhm.
third loop. So, one of the things that we intended for this blanket was that you would learn to do lots of different
Yes.
techniques, and that's one that you need to differentiate.
Yeah, for sure. And, but like you said, this gives you an opportunity to work such a variety of stitches.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything else that you want people to really know about the Cordelia Square? Do you think that it lends itself to color changing, or do you feel like they should probably stick to one color per square?
The world is your oyster. I mean, you could do every round in a different color, and I think it would be
Mhm,
an interesting look. I
mhm,
chose one color just because I wanted the texture to be the star of the show. But man, if you've got little, like we talked about in our Friday
mhm.
podcast, if you have those little balls of yarn left over, oh my
Mhm,
gosh, these would be
mhm.
perfect to use them up for. So yeah,
Yeah.
make
Yeah,
them in whatever
definitely.
color combination you want.
In any of the squares that we're doing, honestly, you can do them all in one color, and I'm kind of advising anybody who I'm talking to about the Cordelia square to use one color. The reason being is because there is so much motion in this
Hmm.
blanket, and so many of the squares are layered with different color combinations, and this gives your eye a place to rest on the blanket where it's not
Yeah.
constant motion.
Man, that's a good point. There's one other square that the last square that we're going to release is also done in one color. And
Mhm,
again, it's the texture that's the star of the show. So I like the fact that you talk about the motion of those top loops being pulled forward. Now,
mhm,
I did for my blanket. You can kind of see behind me that
mhm,
strip at the bottom are the Cordelia squares, and I did one in each one in a different color,
mhm.
but it still isn't busy. It's
Mhm.
very,
No.
very solid.
Well, and what that does when you do a square in each of the colors, like what you and I kind of did is we used the color palette that we were sticking to, and where I had like 9 colors and you had 8 or 9 colors, we still chose out of those colors a solid. And what that does is later on, it helps you to see the colors in the busy sections because you've
Yeah,
got a solid somewhere. And that's why even when you're just pulling stuff out of your stash, you want to kind of try and keep at least something in there that makes the rest of it make sense.
yeah. No, I agree. That's a really good way to put it.
Alrighty. Is there anything else you want to add? I know this was pretty quick this morning, but like, do you feel
Well,
like
I
there's
do.
tips or tricks or anything extra?
Yeah, I do actually have a list, and some of it's based on what we've seen in the Facebook groups, and some of it is just particular to this
Mm-hmm.
square. I want to remind everybody to maintain the stitch count.
Yeah.
I've seen several people post, nothing wrong with this, but
Mm-hmm.
generally we think, all right, well, if our square isn't the right size, we're just going to add around. But in this case, the stitch count is critical to
Mm-hmm.
the next section.
Yeah.
So you either need to go up a hook size if your square is too small,
Mm-hmm.
or you need to block it to the right size, or you need to do both. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of adding stitches around or subtracting stitches, like if you get to the fourth round and you still have the fifth round to go and your square is already 5 inches,
Mm-hmm.
you really don't want to stop at that fourth round because you won't have enough
Mm-hmm.
stitches along the edge to do section
Mm-hmm.
two.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I've also heard asked, and now I'm being more specific about it. When you sew the squares together,
Mm-hmm.
you're sewing from the middle of one corner to the middle of the next corner.
Mm-hmm.
So in the
Mm-hmm.
case of the Cordelia square, you're sewing from the chain one of that corner to the chain one of the next corner, so that again, that stitch count is maintained for section two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things that I encounter a lot because I do so many squares is a hidden stitch after the corner.
Mm,
What is that hidden stitch, you ask? Well, in crochet, stitches tend to slant a little bit and
mhm,
they don't quite line up. The top loop doesn't quite line up above the
mhm,
stitch. So that corner gets worked kind of over the top of the first stitch. So
mhm,
I pull it back slightly so that I can see it and then turn it slightly. Then you
mhm,
can see where that third loop is to work the first stitch. Again,
mhm, mhm,
working that first stitch after the corner is critical because that affects the final stitch count. So you just want to make
mhm,
sure every hidden stitch is worked into and
mhm.
count, make sure that you count um, to be sure that you come out with the right number of stitches in each round. We have stitch counts in there all over the place. And I think that's it.
Well, another thought
Yeah.
that just came to mind as you were saying that is people could pull out their stitch markers, and as they make that first stitch, just put a stitch marker in that third loop so that you know where to start. It's just one way of marking your work as you go around so you don't have to do all that brain power as you
Right.
get over there. 'Cause sometimes it's confusing and you don't want to make it more stressful on yourself than you have to. So, little tips and tricks here and there to keep it easy for you.
Yeah, and honestly, these squares aren't I don't consider them that difficult because we're only talking
No.
about 2 different techniques in the same
Yeah.
square, and granny practically everybody knows how to do a granny square. So, although
Mhm.
this one is a little bit different in that because I'm not changing color, I've done round 1, which are the 4 granny stitches, but
Mhm.
then when I start the 2nd round, I work that first what is it, stacked single crochet in the
Mhm.
corner I just finished, rather than moving forward. So you're gonna make that first one, chain 1, come over to your corners, go all the way around. When you come back when you come
Sorry.
back, you're working a partial corner, right?
Oh,
So you
yeah,
work the
yeah.
granny
Mhm.
stitch and then 2 more to finish that granny stitch.
Yep.
And that just makes it look a little bit neater.
Yes, definitely. It's a great point to bring up, because some people may miss that your stacked single crochet or double crochet is gonna naturally kind of fall into that corner. So,
Yeah,
don't be
that's
looking for an extra space. Use that one right there.
and I think I made a note about that. What did I say here? Oh yeah, it's stacked single crochet in the same corner that you just made.
Mm,
So
yeah.
Um, it'll be a little bit of a backward thing, but trust me, that's where it goes.
It'll all work out.
And hello, Dawn.
Yes, good morning to everyone. I'm just throwing it in the chit chat here. Mine is only seems to only be going to my YouTube today. That's okay.
All right, well, let me say here, hi, Fern, and hi, Dawn. So we get a record of everybody.
Yes.
There we
Hello,
go.
hello, Facebook user.
Oh, you know what?
Thank
Mine's
you.
only going to YouTube too. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, Facebook is being touchy today.
StreamYard is being really selective, I guess.
You're right. It's probably Facebook's fault. We'll just say that. Um, Oh, Dawn says she's working on her squares, but she's got a sick puppy and requires most of her attention.
Oh,
Sick puppies do require a lot of attention. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, take care of that puppy and you'll get caught up. Oh, there's Judy from Kansas. Nice.
She's happy that there's no ends to weave in. Yeah. The single colored squares are definitely less endsy. The We're only gonna have one more after this that has ends to sew in, but this is your reprieve from all of that. So
Well,
it's
now
a short reprieve.
in all fairness with the color changes in the sections too, there
Oh,
are
oh, I
ends to
know.
weave in, right?
Mm,
So
tons.
Don't give all the hate to my squares here.
No, 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 definitely, there are plenty of ends in the sections,
But I
for sure.
understand, everybody, hates on squares because of the ends, but, we all do it, so
Well, and you know what? Anytime you make a blanket, you're gonna have ends. It's just part of the thing, you can't crochet without ends to weave in, you just can't.
right? But do them as you go. Trust me,
It
you will thank us. Do them as you
Mhm.
go. Oh,
Makes life so much easier. Dawn says she's got 5 squares completed, congratulations. It's such a nice,
nice.
easy square to do. It pop like, you can bang those suckers out fast. Um, you can. Now, I will say my favorite squares are coming up, so I'm really excited for next week. I know that we've gotta get through this week. There's a lot to do in this week. And enjoy the simplicity of the squares today because the section is gonna be a little bit moody, this week, but this is the hardest week. And if you can get through this, which has a helper video, if you can get through this week, you know, you can do
Plus,
anything.
we are around. We have both
Yes,
made the blanket,
yes,
so we can help with all of that kind of stuff. So,
for sure.
all
But
right.
enjoy your simple squares today, guys.
I want to see loads, loads, I
Yes.
say, of pictures. Loads.
I've been really enjoying watching everybody's color combinations. It's so
Oh my
fun.
gosh.
And most of them are pulling from their stash. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm actually really jealous of you guys' stash because you got some great colors. I am
I
stuck
know,
in like
right?
brown and green and burgundy
Yeah.
land here.
No, I'm loving it. So, keep up the good work, y'all, and let us know if
Yes.
we can be of any help, because
Yes.
that's what we're here for. Be sure to tag us if you comment on something and need help, because
Hmm.
we not even though we get notifications, we don't necessarily see all the comments if our
Hmm.
names aren't attached to them. So make sure that you tag us.
And Facebook is really iffy as to whether or not we get notifications at all. If you tag us, we for sure see it.
Right. Yeah.
So, alrighty.
Well,
Hmm.
Biz, I think that's it for the Cordelia Square. I'm so excited to see it.
Mhm.
And I'm excited for section 2 to come out, so be looking for that on Thursday
Mhm.
morning. It will be bright and early. I
Yes.
know.
Oh my gosh. It's just trucking right along.
Oh my gosh, and people are keeping up. So you all are so talented. I love it.
You are the rock stars.
All right, we're gonna say goodbye for now and let you get
Mhm.
to your squares so that you can be ready
Mhm.
for the next section, but
Okay.
pop in the Facebook group. That's where we'll be hanging out.
Mhm.
So for now, from Debbie and
Biz.
we're gonna say goodbye. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.